Imagine having access to a tribe of mentors. Leaders that you might have never heard of, but in just an hour, you'll know their unfiltered career story. The bets they took, decisions they made, and the lessons that they learned along the way.
Welcome to the What Makes You Tick podcast. Welcome to the What Makes You Tick podcast. Lights out. It's time to reveal our guest. So, Benjamin Kella, how are you doing?
I'm very well. I'm ready for getting your questions.
Amazing. You have permission to take the helmet off because otherwise it's going to be a horrendous experience for you. If
I'm going to hear your questions.
you're listening on Apple or on Spotify, you need to tune into the YouTube to see what just happened there. But it's pretty cool, and we're all very excited to learn more. So I'm also joined by my wonderful co-host, Tolu. Tolu, how are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you? Good to be here with you and Benjamin.
I know, right? I know. We were reflecting. We talked to me on Friday to do a bit of a pre-chat in the green room, so to call it. And we were saying how I'd met Ben through going for a search to try and find the best sales leaders within Europe. And I found Ben, and we happened to have a conversation. And I just missed him, unfortunately, at that time. But we instantly hit it off, and I was like, we have to do something. And I remember Ben said, we should definitely talk about the career story part of the journey, because I've had quite a unique journey. And boy, oh boy, have we got a treat in for our listeners today. So Benjamin Kella, just for people who don't actually know you, Ben, just tell us a bit about who is Ben? Tell us a bit about who is Benjamin Kella.
So I'm French. You will tell with my beautiful French accent. I'm 49. I'm married. I've got 3 kids, and I'm based out of Paris. Okay, as I used to say, I'm born on the net. So passionate about sales and marketing and driven by results. When I was 17, I left home and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how will be the next step. Actually, I think I was incapable at that time to know that. And I went to buy and bought a book in La Fnac. Probably everyone knows this shop in France. And I bought a book on how to program HTML and Java. And I think that's where everything started. Don't ask me why I bought this book, because I don't know. But I remember reading the first chapter, and the introduction says, pick a theme. And I'm passionate about football. I'm passionate about Paris Saint-Germain. I'm very happy we won the Champions League last year. And actually, I ended up creating the first website ever of the Paris Saint-Germain fan. And from that, I made a business that helped me finance my study and my business school. And that helped me to get my first job. And here I am. That's why I'm here today.
Amazing. And Ben, what makes you tick?
It's a lot of things. I think what makes me tick is when I develop people career. I'm in sales right now. I started my career in marketing, then was in partner sales, now in direct sales. I think what makes me tick is when I get people to get to the next level, when I see their results. The other day I was asked, what did you do? What's your most important achievement? When I look at the numbers of VPs that I've hired in the past 27 years, that actually started as an individual contributor, that's what makes me tick. Professionally. Personally, I was wearing the helmet, so it's kind of cheating. You have already the answer. My brand is pretty much the team leader brand. I like to get the team behind, and I'll use the football and the racing analogy. When you race, everyone thinks, it's a very individual project. It's not. I am nothing without my co-pilot, and my co-pilot is my wife, co-pilot of my life, but it's also co-pilot in the car. But without the mechanician, you're nothing. If the car breaks, you can have a tragic end, really is. And you need to trust people, and you need to listen to what they tell you. If you imagine you're in a road in the dark and there is no light, you're just with your old car, because I do historical racing, you don't see very well unless you have additional lights, and you don't see. And then your co-pilot has turned right, and it's a very narrow, she would say D2, which is a very narrow right, or G2, which is a very narrow left. You trust the person, you trust her. And if you miss, and if she got it wrong, you can finish into stone or in downhill or crash your car, and then we don't want to know what happens. So it's like the same in business. I was actually talking to some candidates last weekend and saying, like, when you talk working with a solutions architect or solution engineer, and he tells you there's no deal here, you need to listen to your co-pilot, because he's the co-pilot on your opportunity, and saying, I think you got it wrong when you're working with leaders around you, is actually the trust you put in people. So that's, I think, where the journey is beautiful when you're building this together. And that's the team spirit around marketing, sales, operation, renewal. Everyone contribute. And that's why I use this analogy in this.
Would you say that your career impacted how you race, or how you race is what's impacted your career?
I think I started racing only 8 years ago, 10 years ago. So actually I started the journey with the football analogy, pretty much, which is, I used to consider myself like a captain, like in football. You run on the pitch because you need to lead by example. You need to show the efforts. You need to show that it's possible. When I left home at 17, and I ended up living at my grandparents, and my grandfather always said, when you really want to do something, you'll find a way. Otherwise, you'll find excuse. I mean, you need to live it, and you need to show people in your working with you every day that you're living what you say. And so actually having no great courage, never give up attitude is, I think, where I think it's thriving. And when you talk about competition today, it's the spirit of competition. Yes, I want results, and I want to get to the results, and I want people to be successful to get to the results. But if you don't develop people career, if you don't show them how to do, if you don't help them in the day, you never reach the journey. The numbers is just the outcome. What's important is how you get there.
I'm really curious to ask something, which is, you've mentioned 17 a couple of times, and I remember it's probably the 5th or 6th time you've mentioned 17. I know that there are defining ages in our life when there's kind of like these decision points, which when we look back and we connect the dots, we know that was a really critical change that we made that set us on the path where we came to this realization and had the self-awareness to understand that was important. What's the story behind what happened to Ben at 17?
I was a terrible student. That's the story. I actually was not working. I mean, let's call a cat, right? I was not working. School was not interesting for me. I didn't like it. And I was not putting the efforts. So there was a moment where I realized that I was either going into a wall or I should do something differently. And yes, my parents wanted me to do it in a certain way, which I didn't want to. I had to discover it by myself. And I think that's the learning. And discover it building myself to those elements. So it happens when I was 17, could have been later, but it was a tipping point last year in school, before business school, which is where, you decide if you do something of your life or maybe not. And I was actually fortunate to buy this book, probably, that helped me do what I really like and care, which was, programming website, being in IT, doing something around football. And, you see it's behind me, but it's all like this sport. And from that, I created a website. I remember, the first training I was doing around the website in companies, or a funny story when people won't maybe relate to this, but back in the days was the very beginning of internet, very, very beginning. And I remember training into an insurance company, a very small group. And I asked the person, can you put the mouse on the top of your screen? Literally took the mouse and put it on the top of the screen. So that tells you where we were. And I think this is when it happens. And I was very fortunate to be at that time of the beginning of the internet.
If you ask your team what a great leadership hire looks like and everyone gives you a different answer, you're hiring in the dark. You need a shared language for what drives scale and impact, not vague traits. The multiplier matrix gives you that clarity. Let's define what great really looks like.
I know that there's some breaking news that we're going to cover in this pod. Maybe we'll just leave it for a little bit later on to keep the audience in suspense, because I think it's a really cool thing that you're announcing, which obviously I missed you, which I'm gutted about, but I'm delighted that I've got you on this conversation. Is what's that journey that you've been on professionally since that point when you built the first ever website and became, synonymous with Paris Saint-Germain?
Yeah, created the first website of the fan, then ended up interviewing players, became friends of some very famous players. And from that, they asked me to create the first website of PSG, and I did. But the great moment was, when you're the last year of your business school, I did the ESC, École Supérieure du Commerce Extérieur, international school. I didn't know how to find a job, so actually I sent a report I had done around how to what's the benefits of internet, intranet, and extranet for companies, and I sent it to Lotus. Back then Lotus was the groupware revolution, and they hired me as the head of web marketing. So I started in marketing and did very well until IBM acquired Lotus, which was a fact. And then on that day, I said, okay, no more job. I was made redundant, which is the best gift that ever happened to me. I'm so fortunate it happened, actually. And the marketing team at Lotus was so great that they introduced me to the VP of marketing of IBM that was creating a startup. And actually we met. I didn't know what a startup was. It was the very beginning of it, 1998. And then he says, we created a software called the Net Portal was the name of the product. And we were doing the My Yahoo, MyZDNet.com, My Financial Times, Mon Les Echos. The product was super cool. So you would say, hey, my name is Benjamin. I like this, the weather forecast in Paris. You would put keywords, semantic search, and whatever. It was super easy to demonstrate and convince. And together we created a startup where I was employee number 3. And I started as, VP of marketing would be called CMO today. But at 22, I was asked to build a team and lead a team. I didn't know that. And I'm very fortunate. This guy, Laurent Binard, which I thanks, trusted me that day. And throughout my journey, the people has been a very strong element of everything I did. Is the people I met, people I built connection with, authentic, real connection. I care a lot of authenticity that helped me go on this journey and continue to grow.
What were some of those early lessons that you had to learn as a relatively young leader?
I still remember the first time when I was hiring, I was asking a question, do you mind if I'm actually half your age? Because I was recruiting very senior people. And the first lesson was hire people that has the competencies. Don't care if they want to take your job. Actually, I want them to take my job and grow. Don't be afraid to hire very senior people that are at the top of their game, A players, as I would call them today. I was not calling that like this before. But yeah, strong people that can bring and contribute and drive the team forward. And actually that challenge you every day. So if you're not pushed, you're not challenging yourself. So I think it's important that you hire the right people. That's the first one. The second one is the impact of communication. I used to say, there was, I think, a saying, I think it was the CEO of Avaya back in the days that used to say, you have to say things 11.5 times before people gets it. I don't know if there's been a survey on this, but I used to, in every role where I've been saying consistently, you need to say you're going to do something, you say you're doing something, and you say you've done something. There's 3 tempo. Very often people are doing amazing things, but they do not communicate on it. They are not sharing how they went there. What did they learn out of it? Why did they fail? So this is those are the 2 things actually that drove it. And I think later, something I didn't know at that time again, it's Carl Eschenbach, the ex-CRO of VMware, who was actually until recently the CEO of Workday, working for Sequoia today. That said when I decided to leave after 7 years at VMware, he sent me a note saying, Ben, always remember that it's your attitude that will define your altitude in life. And I think very often I see people that leave organization in a nice way, or it's difficult. We are in a long-term game. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And I think building those connections with people and living it with them, do not cheat. I think it's also the third lesson.
I think that's a Zig Ziglar quote. He goes, "Your attitude, not your aptitude, will determine your altitude." It's like
I didn't know that.
one of those ultimate classics. But yeah, I love that. What happened next after you left VMware?
So actually, when I left VMware, I was called by Rick Jackson and Tony Adams, and we went to Click, and that's where I started to work on the partner business even more, and start to move to the dark side of the force, as I would say, and being in partner sales. When you've built a career in marketing, it's very difficult to swap. And I was actually very fortunate that Tony, which I will meet in my next company, kind of giving a bit
foreshadowing.
Another clue.
He trusted me. He gave me this chance. Like Laurent gave me the first chance to be a leader and learn from it. Tony gave me the chance to move from marketing to partner sales and actually show me I was able to do it. I felt I couldn't make the move. I wanted to go there. I felt I couldn't go there. But that was the fantastic move. So that's when I moved from VMware to Click. But then when Tony left to Click, he went to Medallia. I went with him at Medallia. And then when he left, and I met other people, other leaders I've been working with, like Carl Eschenbach, Tristan Monday. Those are the people I really care about. And then I joined same thing from Medallia. We went to ThoughtSpot, where I was very fortunate to cross the path of Brian McCarthy, which is one of the most actually inspiring CRO I've been working with.
I'm trying to think, like, one of the things that always comes up, you know this, it's a tale as old as time, is the sales and marketing misalignment. It breaks organizations. And I often find the bigger the organization is, the bigger the break. Because, the behaviors have set in, the metrics have set in, how people are measured, cultures, everything can be so different between marketing and sales that it makes it almost impossible to make that one cohesive machine that makes it not only great for the people inside the business to operate, but also for customers to purchase and to buy and to love the brand. And I wonder what your unique perspective is as someone who came from a marketing background and then to a sales journey, what you've learned about how to make that work that's performed or created the foundation of the success that you've managed to achieve.
I will use what I said before. It's being the co-pilot. It's something actually I would call co-pilot today. At the time, I would say being the partner in crime. And I think it's two letter, PG, pipeline generation. I mean, sales care about pipe, right? Of course, awareness, events, all those things are super cool and help us every day, right? I'm saying now with my sales hat, but when I was in marketing, I had people that worked in my organization where they wanted to do a certain number of events or activities. Activities are stuff. What matters is the outcome. What are we doing? Why are we doing it? Especially in our B2B environment, when you're in B2C, it's slightly different. You need a lot more awareness, etc. But on the B2B side, I mean, what matters is, what have you done and what is the impact of those activity in your business? And this is something Eli Kanan actually taught me a lot at VMware. I was actually always trying to see the outcome, but we're not measuring this outcome so well. So really, on everything we're doing is like, what's the number of raw leads? What's the number of respondent raw leads? Then the number of marketing qualified leads, sales qualified leads, and what's the impact on revenue? And we're building waterfall. We were doing in review and don't hide. We were having one version of the truth, not like marketing doing this dashboard like very often they do. And then sales is measuring, says, I have no pipe. And marketing says, I gave you a lot of leads. And it's your job. They're not converting. I think the truth is, we need to be together in sync in doing it. And we cannot have two versions of the truth. It's only one version. And have this honesty of looking at the numbers. I frankly don't care if marketing doesn't deliver any dollars. What I care is what do they do to go from 0 to 10 and 10 to 100 and 100 to 1,000. I think that's what matters. What did we learn? What's the activity that drove the most conversion rate between respondent and raw leads to MQL? I mean, and even if they close to SQL and then they drop out of the funnel, then it's not a good. We need to understand what are the people in my team doing in sales? Are they taking the leads fast enough? Are they passing the right message, or are we poorly executing on those leads? So this is, I think, we need to understand there are many answers. I think the biggest gap is when people don't look and don't have the courage to address the issues, to address the conversion rate between one point to another. Mm-hmm. And when people have the honesty, then you find the solution together.
Mm-hmm. What actually made you want to move from the marketing side into the sales side?
I think I had several conversations with sales leader that says, you're very sales orientated in everything you do. And I remember at VMware, part of the top achievement we've done is my team was working a lot on recruiting and activating partner. And we were inventing programs like virtual storm activation. I remember Frederick, my team, Frederick Erickson, back in the days was creating this project and came to me. I have a crazy idea. I remember that moment. And it was a packaged box where pretty much there was everything from sales and marketing standpoint to go recruit and activate the partners, activate as first transaction, right? Real business coming in. And from this, we recruited and activated 23,000 partners in EMEA, building a 95% indirect business. Of course, it was marketing and sales working fully aligned together. It's massive what we did. And back in the days, we were smashing it. But, when you do this, then once they've done the first transaction, it's not the end. What do you do from first transaction to go to 3, 4, 5 transactions? And that's where we invented virtual store market penetration, which was another crazy idea. And then we did programs that help partners, using their database and trying to convert. So I don't want to be very tactical, but really was like very sales oriented. But then we didn't stop. We had MDF, Marketing Development Fund. So because we had a lot of budget back in the days, we wanted to really measure the outcome. And a lot of our partners didn't know how to use that. So we invented a concierge service with an outsourced model where people will reach out to you and say, hey, Tolu, you have 10K to spend. What's your business? How do you operate? Can you share your database? Can we do a campaign? Do you want to do telemarketing? And from that, we're generating pipeline. So by doing all of this, I was always between sales and marketing because you're touching the pipe and then measuring the outcome. And I think that's where I was always different, like being always in the middle. So actually leading towards that aspect. So when actually I wanted to go further, I think after that and actually close the deals and being in the deals. And I have to say also continue to learn because, when you do, 15 years in a role or being leading marketing, it's great actually to discover a new role after. And I still learn every day in my job, which is, I think, fantastic. It's a luxury I wish for everyone to have.
Did it feel like a big risk for you? Because you were obviously very successful as a marketer. Did it feel like a big risk to go into something where you weren't so proven, but also the pressure in sales is very high? Right now, you've got a big number on your head, and it's not just, okay, I've got to get X number of leads. This is my big revenue target, and if I don't get it, I might actually lose my job. Did it feel like a big risk for you?
It is. And I feel it every day still. But when you've not done it, I always feel I'm still an imposter. I have this imposter syndrome, I have to say. When you start in marketing and you start leading teams, I was saying at 22, I didn't know, sometimes what to do. I'm not going to fake it. I didn't know. And I was inspired by asking others and learning from the boss. But same in sales, you have a big numbers and people are looking at you as like, what should we do? What's your strategy? What's the plan? And you have to show that you know where we're going to go. And so I've been stressed about this. But because I work with amazing people that, help me first trust myself, or trying to trust myself, and then getting people to get you to rethink sometimes how you do. And I had people in my team sometime that said one of my key strengths is kind of my chameleon effect, where I can mirror what I see on others and repeat and improve and enrich. And that's where I think it's also what I call collective intelligence. We all learn from each other. So if you're just listening well to what people say and tell you, then you know, we can make it better. So, but yes, I am stressed to start my new job. I was stressed every quarter to not hit the numbers. I was stressed in marketing not to hit my pipeline target.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm still smiling.
It's just so interesting because it sounds like you inspire a lot of loyalty from the people that work within your teams. And what I just find fascinating is that even if, in some technical ways, they might be more experienced than you, they still trust you to lead them to the right place and to lead them to success. I think that's a really interesting balance to strike, because often the people that lead are the people who are really experienced. They've done it all before. But it sounds like you take a slightly different approach. We say, look, I want people that are better than me, who I can actually lean on to help us get to the right place. So it's a really interesting balance that you strike.
It's winning together. I mean, if you make this challenge the team challenge, then you're all into it. When we were preparing this call, I told you I did a deck a couple of months ago after Paris Saint-Germain won the Champions League. Yeah, it's beautiful, they won it. But that's not the important. I think there was tipping points in there. And, when they decide not to lose, when you have a team that decide not to lose and to keep winning, I think you've succeeded. Because the game against Manchester City, and I will use this parallel, we were using 2-0. We were eliminated. End of the story, we go home, right? But if you're a team, and I'll give another example on the team, if you see that you're going to lose and be eliminated, and then the team reacts and says, no, we are refusing to lose. Like a customer is saying, no, you're here, not yet. When you're starting on a very bad quarter with 1 month where you don't have enough pipeline and you start to see the results, like, let's go. But you bring your team together and says, what do we do about it? What's the solution? What are we going to do differently? What's the thing we do? And very often leaders do it just in their team. But it's marketing, it's client success, it's renewal, it's the pre-sales. If the pre-sales team start to do PG Day on the same day as you, if marketing suddenly start to send twice as many campaigns to our audience to invite them to an event, if the renewal team is starting to sell PS on your behalf and that reduce your churn and contraction, guess what? All those things, they add up and that create a multiplier effect, and then you refuse to lose. And then suddenly the results comes in and then the team is behind. I have been at the board of companies that were public, or I've been a CMO at a publicly traded organization, NetWest Group. I've seen others doing, and I'm trying to bring my knowledge, and that's where I am different, is I have the sales, the marketing, the partner experience at the international level for those 27 years. So that's what I use. But then if you pretend to others, they won't trust you. I remember some of the customer meeting, I observe how people were doing. And then you just bring your own words and how you do, and then people's like, all right, we do it together. You're on the same pitch. You're running, I'm running as fast as them. And with the grit, the courage to never give up, to get them to get to the next level.
I'm really curious to ask. So there's like 5 questions in my mind that I'm going to prioritize so I do the right job by the flow of the conversation here. But you've mentioned the multiplier effect. And that's really dear to my heart as a word, because I believe that what we're hiring for when we hire people is people who multiply the impact of everyone around them. We call them multipliers. I also believe you can hire bad people who do the opposite, which are dividers. And they try and divide and conquer and create silos in politics. There are adders who are good, but they're not quite great. Steady state, but they don't multiply. And then there are subtractors who are just a terrible hire, wrong capability, bad culturally. The opposite of a collaborative team environment is what you create. When you're thinking about multipliers in your business, and you mentioned some characteristics there that you hold dear to your heart, what are the characteristics that you've observed add up to someone who has a multiplying effect within the culture of your team?
It's a very good question. The first thing I would say is the most important things we have in our job is to hire. And very often people don't think this way. It's funny because it's only a few years ago I realized that, sometimes you rely on your recruitment team to get the best talent, but it's also your job to find the best talent. And how you reverse the table on who you want on your team. And the analogy I would use is like in football again, is like you have the mercato. I mean, you don't wait to see who's the players that are going to be offered for your team. The trainer is looking for the talent that will add to your team. And I think that's exactly where it's our duty as leaders and every leaders to do this. So to answer your question, yes, great courage, never give up attitude. It's what I would look a lot for in people I hire. I also look for people capable of having the ambition to be CEO of their business. When you really want to do something, you'll find a way. If they want to be passenger, great. In a racing car, there's no passenger. You have a pilot and a co-pilot. The co-pilot has his duty, and without that, the pilot will fail. So I don't want passenger. I want people that will have an impact. The people that will want to build something. It depends on the company, of course, but in the companies where I have been, it's every time where we build something, where we want to create something. And so I need people that have an entrepreneurial mind, that are willing to care about their business and how they do, that are I like when I have AEs coming to me and saying, I failed on that job. This is, but what did you learn from it? And then they say, I should have done it differently, or I should have tested my champion differently, or I should have engaged with the EB much earlier, or signed an upfront contract with them. So whatever it is, but then you say, okay, he's learning from it, and you'll be able to coach him. So the coachability is another element of what I'm looking for. Because nobody's perfect. And we are in a business today where today it's AI that's revolutionizing everything we do. But the truth from 2 years ago is not the same truth as today. So we need to adapt every single quarter on how we change, how we do things. I think that this is really important. So adaptability, coachability, never give up attitude, being CEO of your business, and one element is collaboration. I very often say, I actually was saying that to some of the person I'm trying to recruit for the next ride. It's like, I want our team to be the team that is more appreciated by every supporting team. That's where you get multiplier effect. Because suddenly, if marketing loves working with you, what do? They will prefer you, right? If the pre-sales team is coming happy, it's like, yeah, I'm going to help you and I'm going to win this deal together. And they are in the deal, asking the question to the customers, or even challenging the opportunity without you being in the deal. You again have this multiplier effect. Then it's the partner business. When you want to build a business, you need partners. And very often it's okay, they'll do the transaction. No, partners are not just there to do the transaction. They have the ability to open a deal or close the deal. Open an account or close the account if you're not doing whatsoever. And if they close the account, you can do whatever you want. You will not come back. So again, this is how we become the most collaborative team to work with. And so that's what I care a lot when I hire people.
I wonder when you've failed in hiring, which we all do from time to time, particularly when we're learning and stepping up, what has been one of the most memorable things that you missed or got wrong, and what did you learn from it?
When there's a doubt, there's no doubt. Sometimes I've made a decision and I regretted it. You've been waiting for 3 months. That's why actually I changed the way I recruit, and I asked the people in my team to change the way they recruit. Is when you have you saw 5 candidates over 5 weeks, right? It is like, I haven't seen enough, right? And suddenly you see one person that is actually good, but not excellent, not an A player. And you say, okay, and you try to negotiate with yourself. And I think, this person is good. I should hire this person. But there's something like there's a doubt. And then you start to think about it. In 90% of the case, if not more, when there's a doubt, there's no doubt. And that is a bad decision. It's better to have nobody in the role than having the wrong person. And that's what I've learned. And that's why I actually shift the way I want to recruit. And I have recruited in the past. Because, I mean, as you said, Rich, it have an impact on the team and can destroy everything you take years or months to build.
Yeah. Which do you think is the hardest thing to get right? So the way we've defined a multiplier is there's 4 elements that make a multiplier. They're collaborative, which you've mentioned. They take ownership, which you've mentioned. They're resourceful, which is like ties in a lot of the things that you've mentioned around their ability to solve problems and get results out of very little foundations within the business through leveraging partners and team resources, but also within customers, solving customers' problems, and execution. So it spells the word core: collaborative, ownership, resourceful, and execution. Which do you think is the hardest to find in people?
Ownership. I think some people, so you have people that have it, and you have people that pretend that they have it. And we all face dark days. We all face difficult days when 10 customers doing this, I don't want to talk to you, or you lost 2 deals and you committed the deals and you're stressed because it's not coming in. And those hard moments is where you see the real color of the courage of the people. And is it an excuse, or what do they do about it? And sometimes there's nothing they can do, but at least you have the duty to try something. And again, when a customer says no, you should hear not yet, and then ask questions like, what should we do to win that deal? What can we do? Where did we fail? Because I don't want to miss that. I've seen some deals where when we ask those questions, what did we do wrong that made you go to make another decision? Some customers look at us and say, you're the first one to ask me this. And then, but they change, because then they start to like, you should have done this and this and this. But then that opens the time to, how do we turn the ship around, right? And so I think I think ownership is the one thing I would say.
Yeah, I was going to say, you mentioned like being the CEO, it made me think of ownership, which is true, right? And you mentioned Turn the Ship Around. That's a brilliant book by David Marquette. Love that book. Extreme Ownership is a really famous book. We talk about this a lot, and I think it's really hard to find people that have that ownership. And like you say, a lot of people say that they have it, but they don't. And I just wonder if there's a practical thing that you've realized helps you to spot the ones who genuinely have ownership from the ones who say they do, but in reality don't.
Yeah, very often I ask the question, what is it that shaped you to become who you are today? And I also ask, what's the deal you've lost and that you want to talk to me about? And did you understand why you lost it? And when you start to see people telling you, actually, yes, I felt I built a champion, but I didn't test him enough. Okay. What would you've done differently? But you have some people that actually, no, I do everything right, or no, I did everything perfectly on this opportunity or on this. Nothing I would change. I mean, you've seen, or you understand what I'm going through. You also have people that were extremely lucky, and lucky is not a strategy, but it's good. It's part of the game. People working for product-led growth organization, and sometimes when it's hard, they go outside. I think that, when you look at the pattern of some people, when they stay, when it's hard, and they want to succeed and invent a new way of selling or testing a champion or solving customer pains as well. Learning medic is not easy. You have I'm a medic leader, and some people medic, should I say now, but when you ask questions around, you see how people play and understand and how deep they go, or they just get stuck on yes, I make the deal. Yeah, I don't care if you made the deal. I'll give an example. A couple of weeks ago, at GitLab. I was interviewing a candidate, and I asked him how he won the deal. Can you tell me the deal? Tell me the story of the deal. It was evident that this person has not made the deal. Yes, the deal was landed, but he was not the person who drove the deal. So you can see those things as well very often.
I love that concept of true ownership, right? It's very different because that kind of obsession over some of those details, some of the small things, the levers that you can actually pull. I think that's where that true ownership really comes in. And what I was just thinking about is if you have someone who is, working their way through their career, do you think there's something that they can do to develop, their ability to really take true ownership? Or do you think it's just something you either have or you don't have? How do you think someone could develop that?
Yeah, I think it's having the courage to address what you don't do well. And now, but very often I ask a question like, if I was talking to your previous manager, what would he say that you're doing extremely well? And what would he say that you need to improve? And then you can see if people are taking serious stuff around this. Like some people say, hey, I have unhappy years, or I struggle to focus. Whatever. There are many things right into this. And I think if you have people that take ownership and they ask for help, this is, I need help for this. And if they say that to you, you have your duty to help them. And that's what I want my leaders to do, or me as a leader to do. And this is where I use a lot of methodology, the do methodology, which is show how to do, help do, make do, let do. If people don't know, you can show them how to do it. It's fine. Once, twice, times, it's okay. Then once they get it, you help them do. Then you make them do, and then you let them do. And then you don't have to worry about it until next thing. So it's actually, if you're courageous to say, actually, I don't know how to do it, then you'll improve. And I'll admit, at the beginning of my career, there are things I didn't know how to do. And I asked people to help me and show me, and I watched and then did it myself. I think if we do it, if you're in it, but you need to have a safe space to do that in a company. If you have this safe space to say, actually, I had reps coming to me and says, I need your help in better forecasting. Forecasting is part of what we do. And you can show them how you do. And then they mirror. Very often I saw actually people doing an amazing job at doing it. But again, being courageous in saying I have no pipe. It's not 150K, but I don't have the 100K in pipe. But it's where ownership comes back again.
That's interesting. Yeah. That's interesting. Because that's also a different side of ownership, right? Is owning the challenge and the problem, right? So being realistic and saying, this is a real problem. And if I don't do something about it, this is going to be very bad. But bringing the right people in to then help solve that problem. Because sometimes people might see that as conflicting, right? Because I'm getting help with my problem. But no, you're just owning solving the problem, however it needs to be solved.
But definitely, people sometimes think it's their problem alone. And it's they feel everyone is against them. But actually, if you have a co-pilot, I'm going to use again, when you're in sales, you need marketing. Go talk to marketing. You need your pre-sales. You need your boss. You need your renewal manager, your client success person, whomever they are in your ops person, whomever is in your ecosystem around you. It's the same in racing. Your mechanician, if he doesn't get the screw right, you can go and finish in the wall and then pass away and you're done. I mean, it happens. So here we're not in the extreme, but it's again, what do they do? Do they suffer about it and do nothing? Or actually, yes, I have a pipeline problem. Let me reverse the table, turn the ship around. And all right, what I do, I get marketing with me. I got all the list of events. I have done 3 PG days this week because I was short of pipe. Then you start people doing. Then if they don't create the pipe, then you can go to the next level. It's like, is it the qualification? Is your messaging not well? How is your storytelling? And then that's where, by doing the deal review, territory plan, account plan, deal reviews, you assess that. And very often, when people arrive, they're in ramp period. You show them how they make the first deal. You're with them. And then when they get one, the second one, the third one, then show how to do a help do. They do. And it's very hard because people sometimes takes everything and they decide that things is against. It's where the ability to say you're not alone. We're here. I mean, the time you exit a person, because people sometimes don't think that. It's like when you invest on people, you're making a huge investment. But if they go, you're losing half a year, if not more, because the person will show decrease in productivity. The time you hire the next person and get the productivity, you've lost a year. So it's actually in our interest, everyone, to focus on how we get people to win together. But again, it's a sales space. Do you agree?
I do. Yeah,
Absolutely.
I do.
Absolutely.
I do. There's a question I've got about the Paris Saint-Germain thing, because so you're very connected to the club and you've talked a number of times about them. The perception of the world outside of Paris Saint-Germain, as I speak for the world, but certainly is, they unlimited money. They've bought their success. And I wonder if someone who's much closer to it and has seen the evolution, the things that went well, the things that didn't go well, what have you observed that they did very well, and which mistakes do you think they made that made that success slower than they might not have liked?
At the beginning, they never had that many money at the beginning, right? We never had that money, right? So the club didn't, and was built on other foundation. I think they hired very expensive players and the strategy didn't work because we didn't want it. And this is when they hire young people, which are very talented, that put the team at the heart of it instead of the ego of 1, 2, or 3 person, or 3 person in the same role, not to mention them. It worked because they all fight for each other. When you have going back to your analogy with what we were saying, if you have 2, 3 big egos, which are the people that have the best territory in sales or the best thing, and then the others don't, it doesn't work. Everyone feels it's part of their project. If you're part of the same team to achieve, suddenly that's why you have this multiplier effect, and that's how they won last year. I show you, give an example. There's a moment I love that I was actually... I love the video. It's at the 79 minute in the final when Paris Saint-Germain was winning 4-0 against Inter. Kvaratskhelia, our Georgian player, started to run from one place, to the other side of the pitch to the end just to get the ball. And there was nothing. 10 minutes left, 4-0. There's no way Inter would come. But he fighted for the rest of the team, got the ball. And as soon as he got it, it's like, yes! But it's nothing. It's not a score, but at least he contributes to the rest. And I think this is the thing, is the effort. Sometimes you don't win, but at least you learn from it and you get there. And I think all those years we've learned from it, and until to a point that the star system doesn't work, and that's the team that works, and you hire talented people, A players with gifted thing, and try to make something where you have this multiplier effect.
I think that, especially in sports, momentum is such a big thing, right? And those little moments, they're huge for momentum, because if he didn't do that and actually Inter got some momentum from that, then you're actually in danger, and just like in sales, momentum is everything. So doing those little things, even in the last 10 minutes of the deal, make a massive momentum shift for the next deal that you go into as well. So that confidence builds as you go into the next game, the next moment. So yeah, I think those little things are huge.
Yeah. It's never give up, consistent execution or consistent effort, should I say. Maybe you understand this, like consistent effort beats sporadic brilliance. It's like, you strike the deal, great, but it's all the PG you're doing every single week, and some of that doesn't pay off until it pays off. That's going to drive the success, and that's the same in football. It's if you run 10 minutes or if you run 94 minutes, it's not having the same impact. I think that's the learning. I think.
The interesting thing about that, right? I've had that feedback before in a previous role, that I had moments of consistent brilliance. And what I realized is it wasn't the right environment for me. So I'd been in a career for 12 years, rising up through the ranks in the business. I joined the forces with an entrepreneur to learn how to become an entrepreneur. And I was doing all these different roles inside the business. It was the most amazing experience ever. I was in a bit of a, what's that word when you're in between things? I was like a bit in, what's that word?
Limbo.
Yeah, limbo, or like kind of like career purgatory. And I was going, I don't really know what my next step is. And I was showing these wonderful moments of what I could do, but there was like a lack of purpose, a lack of interest, a lack of like congruence around what I was doing. And I think that it's what I've realized is a signal that if you're in a place where you're going, I know I can turn it on and I can be great, but actually I'll default back down to something that's like below the standards that I know are my best. Maybe you're in the wrong environment. If you see it within your team, maybe they're in the wrong environment, or you need to shape what they're doing and their responsibilities, maybe give them a challenge. Multipliers love challenge. So if you've got, let's say, top performers who are capable of smashing 200% of goal, but they're inconsistent quarter to quarter, are you giving them enough opportunities to take responsibility? Are you pushing them hard enough? Are you throwing extra challenges their way? And I wonder what you've learned if you're thinking about coaching teams, about how if someone is a bit showing moments of brilliance, but you know they've got it in them, what's worked to get more consistency and more potential out of that person, like you say, to help them reach that next level?
Yeah, I think it's the challenging people. It's funny because as you said that, I was thinking about Luis Enrique, the trainer of Paris Saint-Germain. One of his mantra is no one is playing the same position each time. And you have players that used to be midfielders, they finish right defender, or some, strikers, whatever. So changing the position makes you learn, because it makes you uncomfortable. It makes you think about different things and develop new skills that get you to get to the next level. So I think this is exactly the same in business. When you've seen those brilliant, people have challenged with PG Day, right? And pipeline generation day. And some people have difficulties in organizing their territory. So how you challenge them to go there? Or some people do, when I go back to some accounts planning and deal reviews, and the way they say it, you pick up. So it's all those things where if you challenge them, so sometimes you feel, oh, should I tell this person? I think you should. Yeah. It's hard. We should. You should have tested this. What are you going to do differently? I'm here to help. Again, safe space. If people have this ability to come to you and say, yeah, I think this is my deal, I'm stalled and I need your help, then you can help. And then you challenge everything that can be done. And again, challenging is not for being bad. It's actually for being good. It's striving to get the best out of it. Again, it's getting this in place. I think that's the thing is, how do you challenge people and to get better at what they do? I used to do things when I was more in marketing than in sales, where it's more individual sometimes in sales, because, it's a team of individuality, that the collective is how you reach. But saying, if this is the area of your improvement, why don't you take a project on behalf of the team about one thing that will actually prove yourself you're capable of doing it? And that can be leading on for the rest of the team on whatever, new technology, new product. But this is where, the coaching of people is really important. When I was at Click, I was very fortunate to go to the US on a top-down program called Greater from the Inside Out, with somebody amazing, Jeff Patno, who is not in a good health at the moment. So thinking about him, he's a coach. He was, he really, you imagine you're on a retreat and he tells you, like, what is it that shaped you to become who you are today? That's the founding question. And then, what's your purpose in life? Why are you here? What are you trying to accomplish? And then from that, defining what's your top value? What are you good at doing? And what do you want to improve? And then taking your disc, you're understanding the top criteria. But ultimately, is how you align your head brain, your heart brain, your gut brain on where you want to go. So it's actually a long-term coaching and on doing those things, but it's help people to get to the next level. The question is, do people want to go? Sometimes they don't. They just want to be here, do the job, and go home and do something else. So I think this is where the nuance doesn't match for everyone.
I think a lot of what you've just been talking about is almost about alignment as well. So even when you went back to the PSG example, when they got the guys who were more aligned around, this is about the team than it is just about me, that's where you start to see that shift, where you understand, are we all aligned going in the same direction? Do we want to go to that next level? That's where you can then get the right feedback. You then have the right conversation. So alignment sounds like a really important thing.
Definitely. And you have, I mean, we all have been in companies where you have people that are not aligned anymore, but they stay until they have their next job. That's the time where you have a disconnect between what it is. And unfortunately, I mean, that's the way the companies are working, and sometimes it's difficult, but I think people need to have the courage to say, hey, I'm not aligned with this. I should go somewhere else.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, speaking about momentum and challenge, I know we've got a breaking news story that we're going to share here, Ben. And I also know that in the more senior people that I have the opportunity to speak to, the more I realize it's about being in the right environment where you can have a bigger impact, and where you just feel like where we're going to go on this journey is so incredibly exciting that I can't wait to lead the charge here. I can't wait to bring people on the journey with me. Tell people about what is this wonderful news that we can share to our listeners today.
So that's a big teaser. So I'll join an amazing company called Cursor, and I'm actually recruiting the entire team for addressing the Southern Europe market. So if you don't know Cursor, it's actually in AI, and we're helping companies to code faster, better, and be amazing at developing amazing software and compete every day. Cursor was created in 2023 and passed the 2 billion in revenue last month. It's the highest growth, I think, in history of IT. So it's an amazing journey, and I think the challenge is crazy because imagine I'm going to build a team in Southern Europe from scratch. So I have the ability to hire the best of the best to start this journey, and we're going to build this market together, winning the first deals and grow this region. So super happy about it.
That's amazing.
Congratulations.
Amazing. Yeah, congratulations. First of all, thoroughly well deserved. And I wonder what it is about your character. Obviously, there's so many things you've mentioned, right? Your love of sport, being entrepreneurial from a young age, making that brave pivot from marketing into sales. You've been through some large corporates. Now you've gone to one of the fastest growing companies, if not fastest growing company. And you've obviously got this love for like racing. You want to go fast. We talked about momentum. What is it that this burning fire within you that's pushing you to want to take on a challenge so big when others might prefer to stay in something a bit larger, a bit more steady state with a bit more security?
Yeah, I think it's the people. When Brian McCarthy calls you and tells you about this challenge, and I worked twice with Brian, that's going to be the third time, you don't resist. I prefer 10 times a leader that comes to work and say, hey, come on, you can do it, and give you energy. The energy you receive from others is very important. I've been in places where I didn't have that type of energy and positive vibe. But when you get this type of leaders I cannot mention all the leaders yet, that will join this adventure. They are amazing leaders that I've worked with in the past that give you this positive attitude and positive vibe that makes you to go to the next level. I think this is a very important thing. That's upwards. I think with the team, I think I shared it. I don't build teams. I build careers of people. That's what I care. I want people to grow. I want people to develop. I mean, this is my legacy pretty much. I want this to be my legacy. I mean, it's not hitting 10 quarters. Yes, of course, it's amazing. It's very important. We have to do it. But I prefer 10 times having people like say, hey, every day asking, where's your next journey? Because I have not announced. Can I come with you? Of course, we'll see if we can make it work. But this is, I think, where you see how you help people being better, and they tell you that. And I'll share a moment with you. I was doing my farewell. This is very personal. And I decided to do it in my house a couple of weeks ago. And this is a decision we've done with my wife. And I never did it this way. But having people at home, and they start talking, they start to share everything I have done or impact in their job, in their life, And you hear, there's one guy, he will recognize himself, that said, Ben, you changed my life.
Oh.
And yes, he had to rent his apartment in Airbnb to pay his bills. And last year, when he made President's Club, super top achiever, super happy, we helped him with his leader to get there. But when he says, you changed my life, and send you pictures of the first watch he bought or the first luxury watch, he says, you really changed my life. And you have others like, without you, we wouldn't do this. But as I said to them, it's like, thank you for saying all of this. It means so much. But why don't you say it when we're in the job? Because that will reinforce even more the partnership we all have. And sometimes we don't do it at that time. And, I say, Brian is amazing. Brian always finished his, I don't know if he still does it. I'll find out very soon. But I love you. I mean it. I love you. I mean it. That's how he conclude is a lot of his all hands. But he gave you this energy and you want to be better because you have that energy. And that's what I want is I want people to be better because that helped me be better. That's how I change as well. And I grow.
That's beautiful. This might be a slightly random question, but you've done a lot of going to new places with people that you've worked with before, right? And for example, I've never done that, right? So what I'm really curious about is there any advice that you would give to someone? Because people are doing that a lot more now, right? Is there any advice you'd give to someone who is going to a place with someone that they've worked with before? Because you've obviously done it really successfully because, they want you to come again. So what is it that you do when you're going to a new place with someone else, into a new culture, a new environment, that means that you can replicate some of that old success that you've had before?
First, you need to learn the company culture and understand what made it successful. That's no matter if you know people or not, you must unlearn to relearn. This is really important. That's the one advice I would give, because it's not because you know people that it's going to be easy and etc. No, they've been success. They've done it in a certain way. There's a culture that has been built, which might be different than the one we've used to. And so actually you might enrich your culture by doing this. So first is listen, watch, observe, and understand that. But where you win a lot is that how the people works. You have the connection. You don't hesitate. I mentioned Tony Adams. We did 4 companies together. He was my boss for 14 years or something like this. I mean, he's at Cursor. He's leading the partner business worldwide. So if I need partner support, what would I do? I will text Tony or ring him and say, hey, Tony, can you help me on this? I'm trying to, work with this company. Can you help me? So the time it takes to build relationships sometimes in companies, it will delay that. So I have that. Song Park leading the client success team. I work with him at SoulSpot. He's at Cursor. So this is the example of same. I need a customer churning. I hope not, but I need your help, right? He will reach out and put the right people into it. Again, there's no political game. It removed the political part, I think, of the political game, which I think don't have their place in work. We're here on a duty. Let's do the duty. It's not about politics. I think that's what I would say to the overall. It's like, it helped me that. But I have to say, I had to go away from my network to learn and do the next round sometimes, which is great because I learn a lot more that I can bring back.
Yeah.
So I think this is where we have this exchange. You need to have the right balance.
It's such a beautiful thing, actually, where it's great to work with the same people, but also it's great to be confident to go into a totally new thing, learn something new, bring that back. I love that whole concept. And even just me personally, something I've been thinking about is who would I want to go and follow in the future, right? At the moment, I'm out learning new things, but I know that at some point I'm going to want to go back into something with someone I've worked with before, So yeah, really, really helpful. Thank you.
Richard, you said earlier, the thing that was around the concept around the stress to learn to do something new.
Yeah.
But when some people there, part of that is going away because you're not alone. I'm going back to what I was saying earlier.
Yeah.
You're not alone because you have people you can ring and say, hey, what am I not doing right? Or what should I do differently? And they will tell you because you have that connection.
They look great on paper, but in practice, they create silos, block alignment, and stall execution. Dividers are the leadership hires who kill scale from the inside. Learn how to spot them before they slow you down. The multiplier scorecard will show you how.
So, Benjamin, we have a closing tradition on our podcast, which is our tick fire questions. Are you ready to go?
Let's go.
You've asked a racing driver if he's ready. He's like, come on, let me see those lights go out.
Ready, set, go!
If you started your own podcast tomorrow, who would you pick as your first guest? And they can be dead or alive.
Luis Enrique, the trainer of Paris Saint-Germain. I am so curious to ask him a lot of questions on how he motivates the team every day and how we can pick up what he did into the business life and learn from it.
Amazing. When you think about AI and its impact on the world, what are you most excited about and what are you most cautious about?
I think it's crazy what it does. Over the past few weeks, I created so much with AI around PG plan, etc. But actually fun stuff. My daughter, 10 years old, asked, hey, I want to learn English. Can you help my lesson? So I developed her a game. So she's playing on her iPad and learning English at the same time. So this is super cool because it's freeing up. I create other stuff with it. I think so the amazing is I think we all now CTOs of what we want to do. And if people are creative, they will be able to do everything they want with it. Please use Cursor. This is an amazing tool for it. Very easy to use and actually enterprise ready. That's the advertising, right? No, but joke aside, I think Cursor is amazing for doing it because I've been using it as well for developing that. So I think that's being all CEOs of it and being creative or CMO, whatever we want to create. I think it will free up a lot of creative mind to finally do what they want. And we're talking about aligning your head, heart, and gut. Like it's like not having cognitive dissonance between what you really want to do for a living and what you do in a living. I think that would help a lot. On the other side, might create some people to be insecure if they don't embrace. I have two kids who are 18 in business school. I remember this sentence from the director of the schools is there will be two types of users. There are the people that actually will understand AI and use it, or actually use it every day and be expert at doing it. And I think everyone needs to be expert because that will create new jobs, etc. So I think that's the thing everyone needs to learn now because it goes super fast.
When you're coaching new leaders, what's one piece of advice that you always share?
Communicate. And when there is a doubt, there's no doubt.
What's a piece of feedback that you received that made the biggest impact on your thinking?
Trust yourself. You're doing what's right. Trust yourself.
Which book would you choose to add to our listeners' library?
Always remember that it's your attitude that will define your altitude in life. And when you really want to do something, you'll find a way.
I think that's a great parting thought. Benjamin, thank you so much for being on the podcast. This has been an amazing conversation.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very happy I did it today.
Thanks so much for joining us for the What Makes You Tick podcast. I hope you enjoyed listening as much as I enjoyed having the conversation.
Yeah, there's so much value in hearing other people's career stories. And if you're someone focused on growing in your own career, check out our Growth Magnet newsletter on LinkedIn. We'll put a link in the show notes.
And we will see you on the next episode.